Welcome to Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside. Beyond the Box.
Break it down.
Our guests are insiders, now on the outside and the right side, dropping truth and nuclear intel bombs and breaking it down just for you. And now it's time to meet your hosts and co-hosts. Your hosts of Beyond the Box are Brenda Lankart and Suzanne Hott. Brenda Lankart is host of Beyond the Box and retired law enforcement. Joined by Suzanne Hott, host of Beyond the Box, Joel's Indoor Arena and Event Center, and White Horse Productions. They are joined by co-hosts Tom Althouse, Tommy Edwards, Brian Sang, and Penny L.A. Shepard. Tom Althouse, co-host Beyond the Box, is the real author of The Matrix, The Immortals, and The Matrix Redeemed. Tommy Edwards, co-host Beyond the Box, Virginia Tech football star, recording artist, and mental health advocate. Brian Sang, co-host Beyond the Box, Full Disclosure Now Movement, fulldisclosuremovement.org. And Penny L.A. Shepard, executive producer and co-host of David Zublick's Awake Nation, The Dark Outpost, Patriots Perspective, and Beyond the Box.
Break it down.
This show is for entertainment purposes only. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Beyond the Box begins now.
Hello, everybody. so look, today is May 18th, 2024. I cannot believe this freaking wretched year has dragged on longer than the last four. and tonight we're kind of in a good mood, even though
right, because we roll with it. We roll with it, baby.
Yeah, because our guest isn't here. None of our men are here.
Not only is our guest not here, but he's actually been 5150'd. So, if you don't know what that is, that means he's being held in a mental institution for whatever the reason. We don't know. But at least we know where he is because he wasn't answering me. And now I know why. But somehow or another, he got a hold of a phone in order to text Susie and say, yes, I've been 5250. But no.
5250.
5150. Added an extra number.
That's in your pants all at the same time. That's what that is.
250 is, I don't know, outer space for 5150. Oh, Tom's here.
That's okay. You know what that means? That means he kind of fits in.
Right, I guess,
Oh my God.
Tom said he's here. Is he in the room?
Tom said he's here.
He did.
He's here. Tommy, can you hear me?
I-
Wait, there he is.
Like
He's hiding way down here.
He's not wearing a lampshade on his head.
Gotta turn the light on. Hang on. Tom, that's either a lampshade or a girdle, and I'm not sure which one it is.
Dr. Lampshade.
Oh my God, I really needed that. I needed
I know, right?
today. I really think it's been a weirdo day.
So the room's certainly kind of electric right now.
Oh my God.
What did you do?
Well, you really grew that mustache fast.
It's kind of a stark look. Yeah.
I like it.
Thank
The
you.
only thing you're missing is Tommy Edwards' hat with the feathers in it.
Yes, it is.
Right. Well, Tommy's
my God.
too, but apparently he's still sleeping.
He might be. He was up till like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right. That's why I go
That's
to bed
my
after.
fault. It's my fault. It's all
Yeah.
my fault.
You actually look really good in the mustache and the goatee.
Thank you. I actually had this in the past, and they, believe it or not, I was asked to be in the GQ magazine when I had this younger and they said,
Really?
Yep. And they said that when I was in Virginia Beach, they said, shave the beard and mustache. And when I did, I was 33. And when I did, they said, you look too young for GQ.
Yeah.
Did you show up with the blazer and the tie and no shirt?
Well, I went all out. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I did my smolder.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Irresistible. You might want to take a couple moments to recover.
I know. It's gonna take me a few minutes. Hang on.
Oh God. I really needed that. It's been a very long day. And the culmination was texting this
Still my heart.
individual over and over again saying, where are you? All you have to do is a thumbs up. Just all you have to do is just say yes, anything. I know you're looking at it because there's check marks on it. I know you're reading it.
I stepped in to save the day.
Yes,
That's
you
right.
did.
Yes. Aha.
Anyway, so he was 5150, Dr. Lampshade.
5150, but he's 5250, so he's
Yes,
5150
but I was
with
5250.
pants, I guess.
Yeah. This is a tip to all the men out there. This is how you smolder, and on a date, you go like this.
Oh shit.
Dr. Lampshade. So
Apparently I'm not used to dating guys like that, because I'd have looked at him and said, dude, you got something stuck in your eye?
Smolder. It's smolder. Yeah.
it's a smolder.
I usually am just used to guys that walk up to you and bear and say, hey honey, what are you doing tonight? That's all I'm used to.
Yeah, well,
Okay, so I just looked up what 5250 means. It's also known as a 14-day hold, a certification for intensive treatment for treatment that can be placed on someone who is alleged to be a danger to themselves or others, or gravely disabled due to a mental disorder. A 5250 hold is an extension of a 5150 hold, which is when the law enforcement takes somebody into custody and places them in an involuntary treatment facility for up to 72 hours. A 5250 hold can include up to 14 days of involuntary mental health treatment. So he did have a 5250.
Okay. I just learned something.
If you
I
could
learned
read
something very
everybody,
important. Now, 5150 is bad, but a 5250 is worse.
if you could have an accurate reading of people, like an unbiased, accurate reading of people's mental state, you'd find a lot of the doctors being committed. I'm telling you.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then that means he's definitely not coming on next week.
Wait, the guest.
Well, it just depends. It depends on the hold.
Wait, the guest has been committed?
Yes.
I thought you guys were just chowing around.
No,
Wait, yeah. What a narcissist. You guys are like, what's wrong with Tom? It's like, yeah,
no, Tom, for
my
real.
dog just died.
Well,
Please.
and I'd like to go ahead and say a prayer real quick before we go any further.
Please do.
So just
Take it the other way.
all right.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
that's it.
All right. So, Father, I just ask in Jesus' mighty name, Lord, I don't know what is going on with Mike or why they put him there, but he had so much to bring to the table tonight, and I'd kind of like to talk a little bit about what he had to bring, and then we'll just go wherever God takes us, and we'll just, in Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen.
In Jesus' name, amen. Oh my
There's
God.
another parallel too, guys. There's another parallel. I mean, how many times they tried that on me, and I end up to entertain them. I actually have the sense of humor.
Well,
there.
and I keep trying to tell you guys, see, if they just take me there and I wheel in and I say, I understand you have my husband here and I need him to come home because I haven't eaten all day and he cooks for me and I have to take my medicine. So I need you guys to let him out so he can come take care of me because I don't have the money for a hospital bill.
Yeah.
And then if I run across a, cute guy, I'll be like, unless you want to come to my house and take care of me.
Right. And in other
They'll
words,
throw him out in the lobby then.
Nobody ends the show.
Nobody ends the show.
Yeah.
So it just
should be a
goes on.
smolder competition. smolder competition. That'd be fun.
Well, you know, I'm telling you, leave it to. I don't know who did it. I don't know why. Maybe he got pulled over and he said a few things and they didn't like it and they were just like, okay, yeah, you're nuts. I'm taking you in.
Maybe he has a sister that says crazy things. They just say them. I've seen that.
I've seen that too. I've been there, done that, and it wasn't a 72-hour hold. I was in for a year.
Oh my God, Penny.
Yeah,
Did they have good food?
not really.
Should we
Well,
talk about that? Should we talk
just
about
stick
what they
around
do with
for
these facilities? You want to talk about the facilities? Because it needs to be revealed.
Yeah, tell us about that, Penny. Tell us, tell us,
About
what
the
led up to that, and then how your family, did that to you and tricked you, and
Mhm.
then
Well, it was
tell us a little
actually
bit about being there.
it was
Yeah.
actually a okay. So when I was in there was a woman who took me to her church, and then she came back and lied about me.
Oh boy.
What? Wait a minute.
That's a pretty common thing.
And
Oh,
then
gosh.
she came back and said that I was wandering all over the place, going to places that I wasn't supposed to. And I'm like, why are you lying? I said, you personally took me on a tour. It was a small little church. There were like 12 people in the church. It was this desolate church. And she went back and said, yes, she was going to places she wasn't supposed to. And I just looked at her. Her name was Mrs. Brown. I said, Mrs. Brown, I'm not sure, but I don't think you have a lovely daughter. And okay, just
I want to
away.
meet Miss
She
Jackson.
stood in front of me. She stood in front of me, and I went this way, and she goes this way, and I said, "Don't do that." I say, "Please get out of my way." I said, "You lied about me, and I don't understand why you did that." And here's what she said, Tom. They
What's that?
told you to.
Yes.
I said, "Who are they? Who are they? They told you to go and lie
Right.
to the people that were in charge of this facility. Who are they?" And we were also talking about the pastors, and that's when Paula White came on my DM when I was in there. She came in my DM, and I'm like, "Who are you, Paula?" She says, "I'm a megachurch pastor from Florida." And I said, "Oh, well, why don't you say hello?" And I named off all the creepy pastors that I've been pretty much outing, and said, "Tell them all I said hello, because I know them personally. And what is it that you want?" And I said, "Please don't ask me for money. don't be asking me for seed money, okay? Because I don't need anybody to keep your seed for me with God." And I think she asked me for money, and I basically told her to F on down the yellow brick road and shuffle off to Buffalo. And then I blocked her. And then the next day,
She actually did move to New York. Okay, so she must have took your advice.
well, here's the
Yeah.
thing. She married Jonathan Cain from Journey. Like, she's literally like a Canaanite now.
But after she had the affair with Benny Hinn and at the Vatican and all that, okay,
Right? Yes.
in
She had
Rome,
the
yeah.
affair with Benny Hinn. Somebody
Okay.
came on my thing the other day because we were talking about pastors, and we had Micah Miller's father on Awake Nation, and I ended up crying on the show because the things that he told me were just so egregious. It was very emotional for me. It was emotional. It's hard for the parents. It's hard for people to come on and tell their stories. I don't know if the people in the
But see,
audience
Penny,
know that.
I don't know if Benny Hinn was actually divorced from his wife named
No, he was
Suzanne
not.
at the time, or he got remarried because he got remarried to her afterwards. I don't know if that caused a divorce or if they were already divorced, or I don't know, but he divorced her and then he remarried her after the Paula White thing.
I believe that they were still married at the time.
Okay,
And
I'm
he had
not
an
really
affair
sure.
with Paula White. But I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know who she was. And so the way that I ended up,
Penny, when I went to her church in Florida, I was told that was where her and her husband actually had their church in Lakeland, and the story was that they got caught in a huge financial scandal. They had to shut the church down, and then she fled to New York and she divorced her husband over that scandal at the
okay.
church.
Then is that where she met Jonathan Cain of Journey?
Well, when she went to New York, that's when she got hooked up with Benny Hinn.
In New York?
Well, after her divorce from her husband, and then they went off to he claims you know, the paparazzi caught pictures of them holding hands going into the hotel room, and he claims that he was taking her to meet the Pope. Okay,
Right.
that's why they were in Rome.
Meet the Pope
Yeah.
in the hotel.
Yeah.
So
I guess I don't know where the Pope was at. You know.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So did this all really happen with her, or did she
Yes.
need to be in the loony bin?
No, it
Oh.
really happened.
So that
really-
okay. So she went
yeah.
off and married the guy.
It
From
really
France.
happened. And when
Wow.
after I there were a couple of people that I blocked. Okay. Franklin Graham, I didn't understand who he was at the time, but I DM'd him and said, "Hey, I think my dad." I didn't know who Billy was at the time. I'm just coming out of MK Ultra, okay? So I was talking to Franklin Graham. It was right after I was talking to Franklin Graham that she did that to me, and then she said they made me do it, and I'm like, who are they? Right? What are you talking about? Who are they? You know, like the 3-lettered agencies, or Franklin Graham. Who made you lie about me like this? And she's saying it on the premises. She came in to see somebody else, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to tell everybody, do not have anything to do with Mrs. Brown, because she's
Wow.
she's a
Sorry,
really
Miss Janet.
divisive individual in a church with only 12 people in it, and one of the leaders, it was a worship leader, and they go to nursing homes, and you're forced to hear this horrendous music from these people that never made it in the music career because they're awful, and then they go into the nursing homes and they torture the old people. They're in wheelchairs and crap. They can't get away, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's lovely.
They wanted to do that with me when I first after I came out of my coma, and I was like, oh no, I will put my wheelchair out a window and I will run away. I am not. No, I work.
Give me my gun.
I will limp away. I don't care.
This is not America's Got Talent. Okay, get out.
Would have been. That could have been interesting.
So, the way that this happened was, I left my husband in San Diego. I didn't leave my heart in San Francisco. I left a lump of crap in San Diego. It was my husband. Okay, I left him. And then I knew he was going to die because God told me he was going to. So I kept saying.
And we were talking about your husband today, because how many years were you married to him?
I was with him 25 years.
So you're a very, very committed, loyal person. And you said you were being.
Sure.
I mean, you thought that was a fault, but I think it's just a lot about your character. You stick with people through thick and thin.
Unfortunately, sometimes the wrong people. I'm trying to remedy that and pick the right people that I want surrounding me these days.
I'm gonna lift my hand to an amen to that.
Right. And so when I left him, I went to go stay with my brother, who I now believe is a full-on spook. And then I started researching. Researching psychopaths. I actually bought, let me see. Oh, Geffen's. I bought a book about Geffen because Geffen showed up at a gig I was at. He showed up at a gig, Tom.
Oh, wow.
Really? Like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was a cover band, Tom. Okay. He showed up, and then I don't know if it was a Madonna thing that I was dressed up, but I was on the side. I'd run out and then came back, and I was standing on the side in full costume. And he comes up and says, I would like you to sing Happy Birthday to my friend. And I said, okay, well, I can't do that right now because we're getting ready to do this song. And he just like went off on me. And he said, do you know who I am? And I said, you know what? I know right now that you're a little man. I don't actually care who you are. I don't like you right now. Please.
I'm sure I know who you are. You're
and then when I was coming out of MK Ultra, I was like, okay, I think that was Geffen. And then I saw some pictures and I found out it was Geffen. And the reason why was because a little bit later, this was it was called La Costa's or Costa's at the Palm Desert Marriott. A couple weeks later, a kid comes in and says he's Geffen's son. Now, to my knowledge, Geffen is gay. Of course, he did try to get with Cher, but you know how that goes. And to my knowledge, he's gay. He doesn't have any children, as far as I know. Okay. So I don't think this was his son. I think it was maybe his lover. He came in and he started buying drinks for the band. I don't drink. And so got the band members, wasted. And then I went to him and I said, the band members are telling me that you're affiliated with Geffen. I say, here's my motto. I don't care who you are, it's how you are. And I don't like the fact that you came in and you're throwing money around and whatever. I don't appreciate that. And I was told at the time, oh, you should talk to him because we can get a contract with Geffen. And I was like, no. And then I went to the mall in Palm Desert. I forget which mall it was, but I go to the mall and I don't know why I had photos on me. And these two girls came up and asked for my autograph. They were young and they'd been in the club. And they say, oh, we hear you're getting signed with Geffen Records. And I'm like, really? That's just so interesting. I say, no. First of all, I'm a cover band. Okay. So why would Geffen sign a cover band? And second of all, you don't know who this person is. So let's say that he is like Geffen's son or maybe Geffen's lover, one way or the other. But let's just say that he is who he says he is. What is to stop him from taking you in his car and then raping you, drugging you, raping you, murdering you, slicing you up, and throwing you in little pieces on the side of the 405 freeway? And they were like, and I said, yeah. Again, it doesn't matter who you are. It matters how you are. And don't get into somebody's car just because they have, some kind of a name recognition, because these people in Hollywood are monsters. Mm-hmm. And I felt that my job when I was playing in the clubs was to make sure that the girls would be okay. I'm sorry, I just remembered something I did. to tell the girls, don't make sure. I would say at the beginning of the show, hey, if you go to the bathroom at any point, take your drink with you or throw it out. Because when you get back, I've seen women roofied and then raped, and I have to tell their friends, call an ambulance.
So Penny, back to the story about the crazy place,
Yes, it's a long way to get there. It's a long way to Tipperillo. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't just jump right into that.
You went from, I know you went from being professional singer, actress, and different stuff, and Hollywood and all that, and then you ended up in Illinois with your family.
I left Hollywood. I went to San Diego. I got married to a handler. I stayed with him for 25 years. I lived with him for 5. Was married to him since 1997. I left in 2016. Still married. I was married when he died. I'm a widow now. So he died January 6th. Of course.
And you didn't get life insurance.
January 6th. Yeah.
He died. Okay. So when I left and I went to go stay at my brother's, and I started writing. And so that's where I got to the Geffen thing.
But when you say, of course, a lot of listeners don't know what that means. And January 6th was, of course, a date that we know that United States and Trump and all the January 6th people. Yeah.
And I also I had a vision of that too in 2017. I was having lots of visions. Okay, so let's go back to I was at my brother's, and then I start writing. I figure I'm going to write my life story, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm not very interesting. So I started researching everything. One of the first things I researched was how the doctors started researching post-traumatic stress disorder. So I went back to the Navy, and then I also researched psychopaths. Of course, Geffen was my first choice as a psychopath. So I read his book. So that led me to the Geffen story, which I just told you, because that's one of the reasons why I read his book, because he approached me and there was a story about that. So then I start writing Bradford and Valentine, which is a television series. And I'm looking up everything. My sister-in-law comes to the house and she says, the FBI is going to come and arrest you. And I said, for what? For researching? And she says, it's for somehow they know that I'm researching and they know that I'm uncovering things. And so my brother continues to yell at me relentlessly every day for something stupid like you didn't push the chair into the dining room table good enough.
That's
Just going
terrible.
going off of, I mean, like yelling and screaming like a banshee, like a mad person. And I said, you don't realize that I just got out of one of the most horrific relationships I've ever been in my life. And I can't handle being, your anger. So I left his place. This was all orchestrated. I start talking to my former agent, John. I start asking questions. These are all the things that led me to being thrown in the crazy house. I
Start
start asking,
questioning everything.
I
Oh.
start questioning everything. I ask, why does John look like Joseph Mengele? Why do I look like Irene
And he
Chun?
does. I mean, oh my God, if people don't know what you're talking about, but her agent, literally, if you took a picture of him and you look at Joseph Mengele, they're like identical twins almost. I mean, it's insane. I mean, the genetics are like right there.
So I started asking, why did he look like Joseph Mengele? Why did I look like Irene Schoenbein, who married Joseph Mengele? Um, why did why did my brother David, who was murdered, who wrote an unpublished book entitled The Whistleblower about Bush, the Vatican, and my family, and he was murdered in Mission Beach. He was homeless, and he lived with homeless people for 2 years. He was investigating, still writing, and he was 20 minutes away from me, and he could have very easily, you know, driven to my house. I think he was being held away from me. I think he did try to call me and he was rebuffed. And I think that 2 weeks before he died, I was down on that beach. Sam brought me down there to have dinner.
And Penny, also, you know what people probably don't understand, but one thing about Penny is she's very gifted, and she has a lot of spiritual gifts. Like she'll have, she'll have dreams, or she'll know things, or she'll be able to decipher things. I mean, so her gifts kick in and put everything together, and then lead her, and her relationship with God too. She has a strong relationship with God, so she's able to uncover a lot of this information and dig deeper than what a lot of people probably are used to researching.
So I'll tell a quick story before we go back to the crazy house. But okay, this is how deep my faith is and how much I know that when God tells me something that's actually going to happen, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay. Susie, you know.
Yeah.
Shade, you know. Brenda,
Yes.
you know. Okay. So I had left my band with John. I didn't know who he was for another 30 years. Okay. And I had a dream, and I told the handlers that they sent me, because we marry our handlers. I said I had a dream that John was going to come back in like 2 years and ask me to rejoin Stinger. And I said, I better have, it's going to take 2 years, but I'm going to have to work up a very good, convincing reason as to why I'm not going to do it again. In the dream, I went on set and Gilbert Gottfried was there. Now, this is very unusual, okay? Anybody who knows who Gilbert Gottfried is, look him up. He's the Affleck guy. Affleck! He always plays like a bunch of ducks. He did a Disney duck. He was also a very blue comic, meaning extremely prolifically, disgustingly dirty. And and then I was also with two African American guys that were on stage. They were wearing fur coats and some like wedgie shoes, like pimps. Well, 2 years later, I get a call when I'm in a movie. I had a beeper because in those days, young people, we did not have shell phones. Okay, um, the only phones that you had were the ones that stayed at your house that had an antenna that was like 5,000 feet long that you would carry out to your yard to get better reception. So I did not have a cell phone. I had a beeper, so I got beeped. It was from Stu Siegel Productions for Background San Diego. The next day, I was to show up on set, do background. Um, was not, I wasn't SAG, so that's Screen Actors Guild. So I got paid like $60 for the day, which is not a lot to some people, but I can do a lot with $60. Apparently, you can make a movie with $60 too, according to Brett Mauser. Okay, so I go on set and I look, and there's a director's chair, and it says Gilbert Gottfried, and I'm like, shit! I have 2 weeks before John asked me to join Singer again. That's how convinced I am, because I know when God tells me things that they come true. Okay.
Hey, it's this.
There's a black hole over there. There's Tommy.
Bye.
It's Tommy, right?
Yeah, what the hell's going on?
I don't know. I can't tell. Maybe he needs your lampshade.
Dave,
Oh, sure. You can have it here. Just take it.
So,
Great. It's a
anyway,
nice sun.
it actually happened. The dream actually happened. Gilbert Gottfried was there. I talked to Gilbert. I said, I didn't used to like you at all. And I said, but since you were so kind to everybody on the set, and John O'Hurley was there, I talked to him later on. He stopped talking to me after I said, I think you should apologize to Britney Spears. Apparently, he didn't think he should. So, anyway, I looked up that episode years later when I was in the crazy house to find out why I was there. Why? And here's the thing: when you're coming out of MKUltra, you need to question everything. You need to say who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's what a writer does. Okay, in order a journalist, even a screenwriter, whatever. Those are the questions that you have to ask. So let me go on. So hold that thought. So I end up, I know that I'm going to see John, and I hadn't seen John in a long time, but I know I'm going to see him again. I'm on stage at the Montebello Inn, and Larry has plugged everything into the guitar player, plugged everything into like one friggin' outlet thing, like Chevy Chase and, Christmas Vacation. And the lights are going on and off and on and off and on and off. So I turn around to the drummer, who actually wanted to marry me, and I say, Shatan's in the house. And he laughs and I laugh, and I turn around. There was no one in the house. Okay. I call it, play under the wall. Okay. Nobody in the house. And I turn around and there's John, my agent, right? Not my agent anymore, but I knew he was coming because of the dream, right? I knew I had 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, he shows up at a gig, which he's not supposed to know where I am. He's not my agent anymore. And he's the only person in the club. And I turn around and I say, shit, Satan is in the house. And I turn around and I say, my agent's here. And I say, well, I guess I better get off the stage and talk to him. So I get off the stage, I talk to him. I say, hey, what happened to your face? Because he's got a black eye. I said, were you cheating on your wife or something? Who slugged you? When I talked to him years later, he said he didn't remember that he had a black eye. He said, yeah, I must look awful. I said, well, you always look good to me. And then he said, I would like you to join Stinger. So when we're talking about that we have dreams that come true, if you have absolute faith and you know that God is telling you things, you pay attention and you make the plans, or you avert the action that God told you. Don't do that. That's going to get you killed. Like when he told me, don't get in the truck with Chet. And so it was 2 weeks and I didn't get in the truck.
Or he told us to leave when we were supposed to leave and not stay where we were at.
Yes. And so I ended up in the crazy house because I called John. I hadn't talked to him in like 20 years because I had an orchestra leader in Illinois that asked me to be his manager. I found out he was drinking and he had some other issues, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to help him. So I said, I don't want to pull this rabbit out of the hat. I said it exactly like that. And I contacted John, and then we started talking from that point. And I, started telling him all the stuff that was going on with me. And then he's back in my life. Then my first handler's back in my life, also Darrell. And this was 60 days after Max Spears had
Penny,
died.
will you explain to people maybe listening who don't know what the word handler, they've never maybe heard that term or what that actually means? So
we all know what it means. Tommy knows what it means. Dr. Lampshade knows what it means. Brennan knows what it means. You know what it means. Our handlers can be from infancy, parents, school teachers, They can be your uncles, your aunts. It could be your coach. Okay, these are handlers, girlfriends. All right. Then also there's a handler and a honeypot. A honeypot becomes the handler. A honeypot is a handler. Then the honeypot, if you marry that honeypot, right? Then that's right. We all did that. So if you marry that honeypot, then that's your full-on handler till death do you part. So I guess I took it to the extreme because when I left Sam, I said, "Hey, I'm not going to divorce you," because he said to me, "You're going to get arrested, you're going to get thrown in a crazy house, and you're going to get thrown in jail." And I said, "Is it illegal to divorce you in California? Okay, fine then. I'm just leaving because I could live like another 30, 40 years, and I'm not spending one more second with you. I'm out of here." And then he died while I was in the crazy house. We had an anniversary, which coincided with a particular picture taken by that current administration at the time, which was Trump. Coincided like the day after my anniversary, this picture came out.
Now, what about a handler? What is their job, and are they hired, or do they work for an agency
They
sometimes?
can be.
Okay.
Sometimes they're actually paid like cash. Sometimes they're paid in jobs. You know, you're going to get a job, or hey, we're going to make it easy for you to get this house, or you know, you can get this car, or we're going to give you this vacation. Hey, I just want a free vacation. It's like there's a plethora of ways.
Favors, a lot of
Yes,
Yep.
favors. Favors that can't necessarily be tracked to any one particular elitist group. That's how it's done. That's how it's done in the political offices. That's how it's done. Favors. So now you have this handler like your mom controls everything. My handlers, and my very first handler, actually control my food intake. Okay. And you know, with the I don't need no stinking food. Well, guess what? You know what? I actually do. I like to eat occasionally. It keeps me alive. That's just the thing I do. And so that's one of the first things that they do in the cults as well. They control your food intake. So
Mine isolated me and kept me from asking questions about my family.
Yes, that's what they do. They have a myriad of jobs. Okay, one is to diffuse you from your actual mission. Another is to debase you. Another is to strip you financially, aside from the fact that they're stripping you in other ways, but to strip you financially, to maybe put you in the crazy house, because now they're married to you, right? So your husband or spouse can actually commit you in a crazy house. If you're not going along with what they want. At one point, Sam said to me when we were watching Martina McBride, who's actually on John's client list, "You could have been famous." And I said, "Okay, I don't understand where that's even coming from." And it's, I think, because he knew that Martina McBride was one of his clients. I don't know where to get the tickets to go see Martina McBride, but and so was Reba. Reba was one of the clients. And I was also told by the person that handled my bass player's career was also my agent. His name is John. And when we were playing up in Modesto, we had a rehearsal and it was canceled. And I said, "Why was the rehearsal canceled?" Because when you commit, you know, when you're in a band, you've made now a business arrangement. You will always show up for your rehearsals. You'll show up on every performance. You're on the road with these people. You have made a commitment to do this. So you have to fulfill that commitment. And even something like a rehearsal, if a rehearsal gets canceled, there's 5 people that, you know, why did the rehearsal get canceled? So I was told by Gil, the guitarist, that all of Billy's friends died in a plane accident. And I was like, all of his friends died in a plane accident. Okay. All righty. And then I found out years later, his friends did die in a plane accident. They died in San Diego, and they all were working for Reba. And I was asked, did I think that was a satanic ceremony 30 years later? I looked up the date and I said yes, because it was Joseph Mengelé's birthday. And the plane flew into, I believe, a mountain, and Reba was not on it. But then Reba started getting a lot of accolades. Now, did she do this? Did she do this, or did her agent do it for her? Did she ever have any knowledge of it? I don't know. I cannot say. I can't make that judgment. I've always liked her as a person, but I don't know anything about her. I've never met her. So for me to say anything that would be disparaging, I can't really say that. But however, this was orchestrated by whatever dark powers made it happen. It happened on Joseph Mengelé's birthday, which was March 16th. He was born in 1911. It didn't happen in 1911. It happened in the 90s. So I ended up, after I got re-engaged, so to speak, with my first handler and my first manager and agent and my second manager and agent. I was talking to them both at the same time. And I remember I was talking to John, and I didn't know at the time that they knew one another, and they're still denying it 60 years later. And I said, I'm going back to see my first agent and manager. And he said, did I tell you I took up boxing? And I was like, okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you for sharing. Why would you tell me you took up boxing when I'm telling you I'm going back to see my first agent and manager? So now I wonder if they have had this tiff back and forth for a very long time, because I believe that and here's another thing I figured out too, is that when I introduced somebody to somebody thinking that they didn't know them, they already knew them. But I didn't know that. Okay. So you might not know for many, many years that they all know one another, that they're all working congruently hand in hand with one another. And in your family environment, when you marry someone, right, then their family becomes part of your family. But you don't know all the people that family knows and how those connections were made to hand out this person. Now, here's another component of it. They know the body type that you like. They know the hair color, the eye color, the height, the weight. They know everything about your choice. And so they're going to put that honeypot right in your place. Now, for me, my first husband couldn't have been further than my second husband, or couldn't have been further from Darrell. Darrell was Darrell was 6 foot, blonde, blue eyes. Steve was 5'8", who I married. He was Greek, but he was a damn good guitar player. I think he might have known Eddie Van Halen, and they might have gone to the same. Eddie was in Pasadena when Steve was studying in Palos Verdes, and Steve's father was a sax player. This was my first husband. After I left, the individual who I met when I was 17, and he was 14 years or 13 years older than me. After I left him, they had another person in place for me, and that person was the second person who was brought into a gig that I was at, and my drummer in the band that Darrell put together. They were all in there with an eye on me. I didn't have any relations with them, but they were there to report back on anything that I was doing. And they were also there to make sure that to disavow the things that I was seeing and that I was talking about, because I was seeing things that were true. So Steve is sent to me after I leave my first handler and say, I'm done with this. He beat me. He starved me. He sold me. That's how I refer to it. That he sold me, not like a manager or an agent. People don't understand that. That is a term that we use in the entertainment business. Oh yeah, he sold me, to this, or he sold me to that. Right? It is a form of trafficking, and you men know that too. It's a form of trafficking. You get sold. Okay. And Tom, you know that very, very well. Both the Tommies, know it very well. It's not just a girl thing. Okay. It has to do with the men as well. And it's just the converse. They're sent the honeypot girls. For instance, when I started talking to my bass player from 30 years ago, I said, what happened to you after you left the band? You just disappeared. He said, he went back to Arizona, so I got away. And he said, being with a particular individual, and with the promises that he would be able to get his own studio, and that didn't happen. And then he ended up having to go back to Stinger again on more than one occasion. And he also told me that my former agent started his career. So before John ever represented me, he represented the keyboard player, he represented the bass player, he represented the drummer. And so I was brought into an already ongoing project because after I left my first husband, Steve, who was getting weirded out because I was having dreams that were coming true. After I left him, I started a band of my own.
Hey, Penny,
Yes.
what is Mike's last name?
Vaughn.
Vaughn, right?
V-O-N-N.
Okay, well, he was trying to call me from the hospital. That's why I went off. But and she confirmed that that's a psychiatric hospital,
Yeah.
but they don't have him under Vaughn, the name Vaughn. So if he does call me again, I'm gonna be
No,
going
another
out.
family name is Gunn. G-U-N-N.
Oh, you think his last name would be Gunn? Gunn?
He might have signed himself in as that, but he told me his name was Vaughn. V-O-N-N. AKA.
Yeah, Vaughn. Okay. Well, if he does try to call me, I'll be clicking out of the show to answer the phone call from the hospital.
Okay.
So okay.
So the first handler then sends in a second handler because you have to be consistently handled. Okay. Then when I leave Steve, guess what? The third handler comes in, John. Okay. Then he becomes my agent, and then we have an affair while he's my agent. Then I leave because I know this is wrong, and I know better than that. I know you don't sleep with your band members. And I asked Billy, what did they say? What did they say to you? Because Billy said, I would have dated you. I said, well, I had a thing where I didn't date my band members, both, although I was married to my guitarist in the band Stranger. That was our band. So after I divorced him, then I go to John, and I'm with him for like a year and a half. And then I leave. They send in Sam. Sam shows up at a club, and Sam's not anybody that I would have ever picked out. He was like 5'11", I think. But I did write down a list of qualifications, and then when I went on my first date with him, I told him everything about himself. And I'm sure that they told me, or they told him who I was beforehand. And so I had written down everything about Sam. He shows up at Kicks in San Diego. It's raining the second time that he shows up, but the first time it's SRO. So there's a line around the corner, and he comes in, and I had a wireless, and I had some tails on, which I almost went flying forward with my heel. It got caught in the back of my tail, but I caught myself on the bar that was in front of it. But I went around, I sang to everybody but him, but Sam. And he was wearing a leather jacket. It looked like he permed his hair. I just was not, Eve. And then the next night, he came back because he was told, you can't fail. You need to come back. So he came back, but this time he's wearing a three-piece suit. And he's not wearing glasses. He's wearing some tinted contacts. So his eyes look really, really blue. But guess what? He's the only person in the club. So I say to the bartender, should I talk to him? He says, well, Penny, he's the only person here. So that's how that started. Now let's go to Billy. I talked to Billy 30 years later because Billy's honeypotted too by this individual. This individual, we're in Sedona, Arizona. There's no one in the club, right? We're playing to the wall. One person walks into the club, and it's this woman. And I didn't know what Billy's type was because I just did my gig, and I stayed in band houses, but I stayed in my own room, and I wrote, and we all did our own thing, and then came together, did rehearsals, whatever. So this was his type. She came in. She was older than him again. She had really thick hair and said that she was very psychic. She goes in there. Billy makes a beeline to her. Now we don't see Billy again. Now Billy ends up leaving the band, right? And so we're trying to figure it out all these years later. 30 years later, we're talking and we're trying to figure out what happened to us all. And I went back to them and I said, I know who I am. And I know I'm the real 11 in Stranger Things. And I know who John is. And John, I found out from my first husband, Steve Zenos, is my biological brother. I didn't have enough time to talk to Steve because I was so furious when I found out. And I said, I fell in love with him. And he said, well, you didn't know. And I said, no, but you did, because you're telling me now, like 30 years later, that, and he stopped talking to his best friend who was my drummer. And I told him, you need to get back with Bob, because it's a lifetime of people. You can't just throw somebody away that you've known since you were in grade school. You guys need to make up with one another. He said, no, I'm never talking to him again. And then he told me the truth. And then he died 3 weeks later of a heart attack. And then I said, well, I was nowhere near him. I was living in my car in Providence, Utah. I had to look to make sure where I was. But I will say I was very angry at the whole thing. Very, very angry. And I was made homeless, just like Sam said I would be. I got arrested, just like Sam said I would be. I was thrown in a crazy house, just like Sam said I would be. I wasn't prepared for any of this. And the way that the crazy house thing transpired was when I was in Chicago and living with my brother, I went to a church. It was called Willow Creek Church. I took pictures of the artwork, which is very satanic. And it looks like there's pictures of John in that church hanging on the wall, one of which had a COVID mask on in 2017. And I was like, is there some viral contingency that's going to happen here? I took pictures of the pictures. I took pictures of the life-size rendering, which was in the Prayer and Worship Center, which when you take the color out of it, it's a gray alien. And then there's another gray alien looking at that gray alien. What is that doing in a prayer and worship room in a megachurch? But those are some of the things I do because I see things. And I say everybody can see these things. Some of us are trained more acutely because of the fact that we talk to God. And because we listen, like the dream that I had, I knew it was going to happen. It wasn't like, oh, that's just a dream. It was like, okay, that's going to happen in 2 weeks, right? In 2 weeks, it happened. That's when you have those dreams and you know that God is talking to you and you're faithful and you're walking and talking with God. When you're isolated, Brenda, that is a perfect time to talk to God and cry out to God and ask him, hey, give me a sign, talk to me in dreams, talk to me through children, talk to me through street signs, because that's the way that he answers us. And we take the signs very seriously, and they have saved my life. So the way I ended up in the crazy house was, okay, and like I said, this is not a short story. We're going to take a break in about 7 minutes. So the way that I ended up in the crazy house was the day before, and I was homeless and I was working. I would sleep for like 6 hours, and then I would go back to the church and I would work there from 6 o'clock in the morning until they closed at like
Penny,
11. Yes.
the lady that I just talked to at the crazy house in California, she just mentioned sometimes people are brought in here because they're homeless. She said that
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
Yes.
That's not why I was brought in. But yes,
I'm just
exactly. Yeah. So I was at the church. I attended tech rehearsals. I dressed nicely. I never bothered anybody. And I was given coordinates on my phone to go to a Starbucks. And I thought I was going to actually meet John there. I went there. And then my sister's sister, my sister-in-law's sister, that's my brother's wife's sister, called me. And I'd been waiting there most of the day thinking I was going to see John. But I didn't anticipate what I was actually going to see. What I actually saw was a clone of John. When the individual walked in, I started crying, and my sister-in-law had FaceTimed me, and she said, "What are you seeing?" And I said, "It's John, but it's not. He's younger. He's got a ring on his hand. It looks exactly like him. The height, the girth, everything. It's him." And I said, "But I can't approach you." She said to me, "No, you can't." And then my niece, my grandniece, said, drink water, turn around. I was like, all right, I'm already down the rabbit hole. Of course, I've been in Starbucks all day long, getting a little dehydrated. I turned around and I took a picture of the vehicle that came through the drive-thru. It was a Chrysler. The license plate said P48 5150. And I knew the next day I was going to get 5150, and it happened. And And I was reminded of the movie Hearts of Atlantis, with the same guy that's in. He's a Sir now. He was in Hannibal Lecter, and he was in this movie where he worked for the CIA in a psi operation. And he said when they start showing you pictures of lost dogs, this is a lost dog op. When they start showing pictures of lost dogs, you need to come home and tell me because they're getting near, and they're going to come for me. So I was trained in pictures. I was trained in movies from an infant. They put me in front of a television set. You could learn to do anything in front of a television set, from building a nuclear bomb to robbing somebody's apartment with, it takes a thief. And so I ended up, I went back to the church the next day. And then the next day, my sister-in-law calls again. And my phone shakes. And I look down, and there's an image. I can't tell you what it was to this day. And she says, "You don't look so good." And I'm like, "Well, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm eating well. I'm sleeping well. I'm, not bothering anybody. I'm just, writing and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything noteworthy for police intervention." And then she says, "Well, you can go and stay at Robin's house." Now, Robin is my brother's daughter, Robin. And I said, "Really? Because Rob said I couldn't go see her. I couldn't stay there." And she says, "Oh, no, it's okay." I'm like, "It's okay now?" That's the naivety, Tom. She says, "Yes, it is."
ambush.
So I take off my shoes and to go down the stairs. I pack up all my equipment. I go in the car. I drive. It's like a half hour to get there. I drive by the house. The lights are on, but nobody's home, like me. And I say, "She's not here." And they say, "Well, go over here." So I go over to that place. And I say, "It's a train station. There's nobody here." She says, "Well, go over here." Well, the last place I go, by that time, it's been about an hour. And now I'm full on under MK Ultra, and I'm compliant. So they don't give you orders. They give you suggestions. "Oh, well, you should come in here, and just get checked up." And so I say, I love my niece, right? They've now used my niece, whom I dearly loved. And I go in. They take my glasses. They take my clothes. They take my car keys with my computer, everything that I have. They take everything. And then they say, "Hey, sign this piece of paper. What would you like to eat?" is what they say. "Sign this piece of paper." And I sign the paper, and then I am locked in a crazy house for a year. I could not see
Penny,
what I
that's
was.
what I asked the lady when I called her, and I said, "Is he able to use his phone?" And she said, "No, he's not. They can't use their phone. They have to use our phone."
Yes.
Yeah.
And at one point when I was there, they did give me my phone back, and they gave me my computer. After which my brother Rob wiped out all communications between me and John. And then he said to me, "We have a stalking law in Illinois." And I said, "Okay," because the program that I was in San Diego, it was called Silk Stockings. Okay, look it up, Google it, Silk Stockings. And I said, "You're going to tell me that I'm stalking my stalker who stalked me since I was a child and put me in Silk Stockings? The television series? Is that what you're saying to me? I'm stalking my stalker?" And then my talents became even more forefront because
You
they
know
made
what
me.
freaks me out, Penny, was this guy George Rodriguez. He
Yes.
was using you, but he also um, worked within the government, not just at a facility at a
He was a
hospital. Like,
commander at the
uh,
DAV in Illinois. He was a
and
commander.
so
And he told
yeah,
me that
he
he
wanted to
stepped down.
leave to come. Yeah,
He said I said, "Did you step down because you know I was coming?" He said, "Yes." He knew my blood type. I didn't even know my blood type. He sex trafficked me out of the crazy house because I needed to get out of there every once in a while because I wasn't crazy. Five people, five people quit because I showed them pictures of John and Bush Jr. And they said, "You don't seem like you're crazy." I said, "Because I'm not, because my family's deep state." and 5 people quit because they realized I was telling the truth. And one person who I still talk to today, he mailed a Bible to John for me because I kept sending him Bibles, not that he would ever read it. And one of them, I actually put his name on it. What an idiot, right? I was going to give it to him for his birthday. And then I sent him.
How long did you know George? Was he assigned to you right off the beginning?
Yes, it was assigned to me before as a matter of fact, Susie, he warned me. He said, "Do you want to get thrown in the crazy house? Stop pursuing this." And I said, "No." He warned me. He took me down to I think it was Lovell Hospital, John Lovell Hospital. That's one of the places where he worked.
So he gave you a warning, huh?
He did. He took me to a place where they on that base, and he took me in and he said, "Do you want to end up locked up?" That's what he said to me.
Because you were researching everything.
Yes. Because I was asking questions, I was researching everything, and so he knew a lot about me because he had my files, and also at one point he said a string of words and I passed out.
He was calling you like every day after you left.
Yes. Yeah. And then I found out he had Aquinos in his family. I said, "Don't ever freaking call me again."
And then he also, what kind of freaked me out was he freaked out when he found out that you had moved in to my place, like and he wanted to know how you found me.
He said, "How did you guys?" That was odd. I said, "Well, I asked for prayer on Facebook, and no one else was praying for me." And then right after that, I was watching The Devil's Advocate, and my brother Rob called me. I'm like, "Well, that's telling." Because he is the devil's advocate. And these are your family
members. You had said something about you were being locked up, and I was like, "What?" I couldn't believe you were locked up, and asked for prayer. And I said, "I'll pray for you."
Well, we're a little over now. Do you want to take that 5-minute break?
I was gonna say.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and do that.
I could go on forever.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead, and as soon as I figure out where to find the video at, because I've got it in here somewhere, we're going to go ahead and take us a break real quick. So everybody hang tight, and we shall be right back.
Break it down. Break it down. Break it down.
And we're back.
Well, half of us are back.
All the boys have their cameras off.
I know.
Oh,
Kind of makes me wonder.
she is back. Mr. Lampshade is back.
I cannot get over the difference with Tom with that little birdie and mustache thing.
I like it.
That is
I
so
like
awesome.
it.
Oh, thanks, guys.
It does. It
It
looks
looks
good.
sophisticated.
Yes, yes,
I
it is.
know, right? You
Yeah.
look like a almost bad boy, Tom.
Oh, actually, in my core, deep inside, there is out there.
You remind me a little bit of John Ritter. So did my brother David. I thought
That is so funny. I was told that by directors in Hollywood. That
Really?
Yeah, and he actually came to see my one show when I was leading Sweet Charity on Maui just before he died. He was there. It was like the last thing he saw. So John Ritter
Yes,
came with
Norma.
him.
Norma said
Yes, he
Mr.
does.
Tom looks very handsome.
He does look very handsome. Yep. He still looked good with the lampshade on, though. So I mean, I'm
True.
kind of tossed.
Oh, thanks. I just drank some tea and there was some mint in it, so I'm chewing. But yeah.
So, to continue just a wee bit in the conversation regarding, y'all know that I was there. I was there, held there for a year. After Susie prayed for me, I got out. I went to a super soldier.
But Penny, let me ask you a question. When you were in the crazy house, didn't they put you on like all this medication and do right?
No, they
And that,
didn't.
and that's, is that why you didn't want anything to do with doctors after that?
No, they did not put me on any medication.
Okay, you wouldn't.
I was
eat the
on
pills, or-
medication when I was with my husband. Doctors got me, put me on 50 different drugs. I had to get off everything myself. I was not depressed before I met him, but after being with him for 25 years, I kept going to therapy, asking what was wrong with me. He never went to therapy. What was
Wow.
wrong with me was that I was with a psychotic individual, a psychopath.
Mhm.
That
And
flipped around.
they kept putting me on different medications, and none of them worked because I wasn't depressed. You know me now, Susie. For how long have you ever seen me depressed?
Right? No.
I'm a
Not
happy
sure.
person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, and so what they do is when you're coming out of MK Ultra, they want to make sure that you kill yourself. So they drug you with all these different drugs. I was told by one of my doctors, he said, "Well, you're hallucinating." And I went home and I looked and I said, I called the doctor, and I won't use the words that I used. I'll just use an abbreviation, MOFO. I said, yes, MOFO. 7 of the drugs that you put me on cause hallucinations. So, yeah, I guess maybe I am hallucinating because you put me on 7 drugs that cause hallucinations. So I got off of the drugs that he and his compadres, because they sent me to 12 other doctors around in the circle, and every doctor found something different. Oh, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. And and then when you're on that merry-go-round, well, then you need to take another drug to save the effects of the other 12 drugs that they're giving to you, because they cause side effects. And the side effect of antidepressants is you actually have suicidal ideations. So
Wow.
they want the MK Ultras to kill themselves. They want them to become desperate enough where they're on all these medications and they just end up killing themselves. I got off everything myself. I could have died.
Wow.
But I knew if I told my doctor that he would, advise that I need to stay on all those drugs. Then I went to one doctor when I was withdrawing, and it took a long time to get off of those drugs. When I was withdrawing by myself, I titrated myself off of everything and got off everything. And I went to a Dr. Eisenhower, and I'd been off maybe half of those drugs. She said, Petty, these are very dangerous combinations that your doctor has you on. I said, yes, I know. I said, that's why I'm getting off of all of them myself. And I'm not telling my doctor, but I want you to take each and every one of those things off of my chart. Well, by the time I got locked up, there were still a couple of things that were still on the chart. They tried to give them to me, and I said, no. I said, I did everything to get off of those drugs. I'm not taking another drug ever as long as I
Wow.
live. And they kept trying to give me these drugs for 3 months. And I said, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you need to clear my chart. I went to the psychiatrist there and I said, what is it that the CIA says? And they said, well, you're schizoaffective. I said, what does that even mean? And I was married to a psychologist. And he says, well, it means the schizo part means you're delusional. I said, well, and this doctor's name was John. I said, hey, John, you've known me now for 6 months. Have I ever appeared delusional to you? He said, no, Betty. You're one of the most grounded people I've ever met. That's what he said to me. And I said, and what is the affective part? Well, it's actually bipolar. He says, well, it means you're too emotional. And I said, well, that'd be fucking great, John, if I wasn't an empath. And when I shake someone's hand, I can feel their emotions. So you're saying I'm over emotional because I'm an empath, and
Well, no, wait a minute.
I never even got into the psychic part of it at all.
Now, wait a
Wow.
minute. Regardless of how psychic we are, or what we know, or what we see, Penny, honey, we're women. We our emotions go everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it's
But
just
here's the other thing, Brenda.
we were blessed with those hormones.
Here's the
apparently.
other thing that people don't understand. When they're drugging you like that, they make a false diagnosis.
Yeah.
Because they're drugging you, and they're actually going to take schizoaffective out of the DSM because they realize that it can actually be created through the doctors who are drugging you. So it's a false diagnosis. So it's a lie.
My first husband, I'd gone through this thing where I didn't have a Aunt Flo for like 6 years, right? And I had gotten in this state where I was just like emotional, crazy emotional, and would get angry at the drop of the hat. So my ex took me to the doctor, and the doctor came in, she checked me out, and she looked at my ex-husband and said, I advise you to pack a bag and go somewhere for about a week. And he said, why? He said, because her whole woman thing has just kicked back in, and you might want to leave the house for about a week. And he did. He took a bag. He went to my mother's Left me there, that poor dog. Left me there with the dog for a whole week. Boss gave me a whole week off, told me to lock myself in the house. And he had the audacity to tell my mother, I think she's going crazy. My mother called me and she's like, what is wrong with you? He said, you're going crazy. I said, don't listen to him. I'm going to come over there and kick his fucking ass. I'm getting ready to start after 6 years.
Right.
Tell him to go away and leave me alone.
That's most people's fear. And people that come to me and talk to me, they say, you're going to think I'm crazy. I say, girl, no. I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
And that's most people's fears. Well, you'll think I'm crazy, or they'll think I'm crazy. And
I grew up being told that don't tell people that you see people that have passed away. People are going to think you're crazy. They're going to lock you up. Don't talk about this.
Susie was threatened with being locked up when she was a child.
Don't move anything.
No, my mom, because I was independent when I was like 17, and my mom said, I'm gonna have you committed. So she took, and this was in Jupiter, Florida, in West Palm Beach, Jupiter, right? So she takes me to the crazy house, and we have to sit in this room, and I'm sitting next to my mom, and this guy's asking my mom asking me questions. And when he gets done, he looks at my mom and he says, I think you have the problem. She's just fine.
Right. Tommy, what about you?
Yeah, I got involuntarily hemmed up for a 72-hour hold that lasted 6 days because it was over a federal holiday and a weekend. And I mean, it was a railroad job, and it was an attempt to try to silence me in 2018. And essentially, it was a criminal conspiracy, broke a bunch of laws, and you know, the system is intentionally flawed to silence dissidents and anybody that they deem outside of the status quo. They want trying to wrangle you back in. It's a tantamount to tallest poppy syndrome. Anybody that's outside of the norms of the
Beyond the box?
Yeah.
They're beyond the box.
Outside
When it happened to me, it was because I was talking to John again, and his son was in the White House.
that'll do it.
They'll do it. Little drop. What was that? That little drop will do it.
Yeah, right. Just dabble do it.
Little dab will do
Little dab
ya.
will do it. Little dab will do it. What was that
Now,
for?
Doc Holiday over here.
It does look like Doc Holiday.
It's funny. I got something for you here, Penny. I was just sent this shot, right? I was just sent this shot. This is you and me at the future Emmys. Wait a minute. There you go.
Wow. I like that. That's really nice.
Yeah, and then they sent me this one, which I just think is hilarious. It's sort of Wuthering Heights. So look.
Oh my God. How are they doing that? Are they using Facebook?
I don't know. It's
I think
too
they're using
fun, though.
Facebook.
I got tons on my phone now, so it's like really wild. But everything's definitely changing. It's crazy. So people are getting
Tom's had a very unusual week too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh my God. I got congressional candidates. I've got, of course, Roseanne Barr just gave this heart on, we're going to do the show. So everything's just going wild, like magazine articles, things like that. So people are finally getting it since we released that Lenny Coco tape. The Lenny Coco tape, that important tape that legitimizes and indicates.
I love Roseanne, honey. If I was a man, I would definitely want Roseanne to have my children.
I think she should be vice president with Trump should be president, and she could be vice president.
I would be surprised that it happens. I wouldn't be surprised that it happens.
She's hanging out with
I
him
think she
an
would
awful
be great.
lot, Tom.
Yeah.
She's hanging out with Trump an awful lot.
Yeah.
The trip.
Buddy.
I actually feel like Tom had said, this is a different year. I feel it. I feel that we're all going to receive some kind of a modicum of success. And I'm just feeling it from the people that people are asking us to do documentaries. I talked to David about it, and we're talking about maybe moving forward in like September. I'm trying to learn, more software to be able to do some things. I've learned a great deal from where I started. So, I never thought I'd be doing this particular thing. And I encourage everybody, if you don't know God, please talk to Jesus, talk to God. They will talk back to
Yep.
you, ask them what your mission is. I knew, I didn't know immediately when I met David Zublik that I was going to be working with him, but he is such a kind and genuine individual, and he's a brother to me. My brother David was born in 1956, which was unusual, Tom, because when he wrote the book and the screenplay of The Whistleblower, and I told him, he asked me how to write a screenplay. He said, "You're the writer in the family." And I said, "Well, you're going to need to take a class. I can't teach you how to do that on the phone." And then I told him he needs to copyright his stuff and send it to the copyright office. Well, I found it on the copyright office. In order to get it now, though, I have to sue as his heir because he died, right? But he put it under the wrong year, Tom. Who would do that? When you're born, everybody here knows the year that they were born. He didn't put it under 1950.
Rephrase that because mine might be a little screwed up.
No, well, that's true. But David knew his birth.
Oh, I did find out.
He knew his birth year.
I'm like 2 years younger than what I thought I was.
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Yeah, it feels like the timelines have been switched now.
Really?
Like we're on the timeline we're supposed to be on, and all the feeling of success, all the feeling of being able to produce, work together, unencumbered. But the other sides have melted away. Like the opposition's just melted away.
Yeah.
Like they're
With my brother David. My brother David was born in 1956, but he put that whistleblower on the copyright office and said his year of birth was 1955. That was not his year of birth, but that was John's year of birth. So I wonder, did he figure it out before he got murdered? I think he got murdered because of the whistleblower. And then my brother Rob said, "Well, don't tell the children that he was homeless. Just tell them that he died saving a woman. He died defending a woman. You know who that woman was? That woman was me. He came to warn me." And so when I got back in touch with John, I said, "I see you now, John." I didn't see shit then. They said, "I see you now, John." And I said, "I'm going to write a blog called See Me Now because I see you now. My brother David was murdered after he wrote a book entitled The Whistleblower about Bush, the Vatican, and my evil family." I didn't even know John was related to me at that point.
I have a shirt that says that, Penny.
I'll see you now. I see you now.
It says, "Do you see me now?"
Yeah.
I got it. We had a friend that a young lady was on her phone talking and not paying attention, and head on hit his motorcycle and killed him. So we went and did a rally for him, and we all got those shirts. And
Do you see me now?
I think that they don't want people to use the gifts that God gave them, and so they put you on the drugs, and that's part of that LSD thing that they did. And I think it's just they lock them up, they stick them on the drugs because they don't want people to use those gifts, and it's all a demonic attack on people.
I found out that Micah Miller was put on lithium. That's what they put Britney Spears on. And I believe it caused Britney Spears brain damage because everyone keeps saying,
Right?
"What's wrong with Britney? What's wrong with Britney?" Well, number one, she's beta sex slave trained by Disney. And I believe that they significantly damaged her brain. It's like when you have epilepsy.
Now, a lot of the people may not know who you're talking about, Penny. Micah,
Britney Spears?
explain who Micah Miller is.
Oh, well, Micah, let me just finish what I was saying. When you're on the lithium, and this is what I think happened to Britney Spears, is that it's like having an epilepsy fit. And when it goes on and it hits that groove, then you have that fit. You have the epilepsy fit, right? Well, she cannot get out. She's broken, essentially. And I prayed for this woman, and I still pray for her. She is MK Ultra beta sex slave broken. If you watch every single thing that she does, she changes the clothes, she stands in front of the mirror, she pulls the pants down, she does her a grinding dance. It's the same thing over and over and over. The same stance. She's like she's stuck and frozen in this particular beta sex. The last thing she did, she ended up at the Chateau Marmont. She was there with like a criminal boyfriend, and blaming her mom. It's all your fault that I tried to do a split leap, and I you know had an ankle that was broken. So Micah Miller, I keep saying Micah Miller. If you Google Micah Miller, she's been in the news, all over the news, and she was married to a pastor, a very corrupt and deviant pastor, in my personal opinion. We had her father come on. There have been a lot of exposes.
Solid Rock Church in South Carolina.
Myrtle
Yeah.
Beach is a place for that.
Myrtle Beach, and it was she dialed 911. There's a 911 call that's compelling, that she says, I'm going to kill myself. Now, here's the way in. Years ago, if somebody said, well, that was an AI voice that made that call, I would have said, okay, you're crazy. Like, what is up with that, right? But now I say, I need to weigh this, because I know how powerful AI is. And there's an individual who just did a documentary laying out the timeline. And he says, well, I don't actually believe that, that call was AI. He says, but I want you to listen to this. And you listen to it. And go to Facebook, and there's Justice for Mika. Go to Facebook. You'll see these things in there. Robbie Harvey has been writing about her. You can find him on X. And he says, I don't actually believe it, but hey, listen to this. And it sounds like Mika Miller calling 911. Only he says, guess what? I made that.
That's scary. Now, tell everybody what the husband was having her do.
So we find out more egregious things. I actually cried on the show. It was on our Friday show. He agreed to come on, and he's going to be on our Monday show with Tom and our trauma triage team. And it's very difficult. It was hard for me, and I wasn't involved in this. I mean, I ended up weeping on the show when I was playing the guest promo. I went to go play the guest promo, and I took my glasses off to wipe my eyes, and my hand moved, and it stopped the guest promo, and I'm like weeping, and Dave's like, what was that? And I said, I don't know. Play it back, and then start crying again, because it was so awful. He said that the husband, he found out from his daughter that he was having threesomes. He was going out and getting prostitutes, a black male prostitute, and she got thrown in the crazy house because she said, I think she was pregnant, and she said, what if the baby, I don't know if she was pregnant or not, but she said, what if the baby comes out black? And they said, oh, well, that's crazy, right? Only not crazy, because she and her husband had a threesome with a black man.
And he was drugging her. She was on a lot of drugs.
And not just drugging her, like he kept saying, well, the drugs were hard to get to her. Talking about the psychiatric drugs, that was the lithium, which that's what Britney Spears was on. I believe, seriously, long term, it can cause brain damage.
Seroquel, he had her on, right?
A bunch of other drugs we don't know. We have no idea what they were. But this was the thing that I lost it at. He said, and she's a singer too, guys. Tommy, she's a singer, and a beautiful singer. He said that the husband, in order to increase her libido so that she would have sex with more people, gave her testosterone shots.
His wife.
He went to his house, the father's house, to record. Her voice had changed. Of course it changed. It was gravelly and it was lower because he was giving her. I said, well, you know what? What else was he giving her in those shots? Because you have no idea. So now let's just throw this out here. It's just pure conjecture. Okay. The father was in the military, and I talked to him off camera, and I said, I found out a little bit about him. I didn't know he was a guitarist. and a very good vocalist, and he was playing worship music in you know, a lot of different venues. And he said, you know, he said he was very, you know, he played all sorts of instruments, right? And so Mika had been with her husband since she was 14. She wasn't married to him, but he groomed her since she was 14. She had made a statement about something like they thought that she was saying when she was 10, but it was actually like 10 years that she'd been with him since she was 14. She was also the babysitter at his house when he was married to his first wife.
When he was married, before.
And then I asked him, "Did you get the papers?"
But she had just filed for divorce, like what, 2 weeks before this suicide.
She'd filed. I don't know the
supposed
actual time, but he
event.
was served 2 days before.
Okay.
And so he also admitted to deflating her tires and putting trackers on her car. Okay, so now we know that he was sex trafficking her. He was putting trackers on her car. He was drugging her, and then saying she was crazy,
Prostituting her.
And then when she says, "If I'm pregnant, this baby could be a black baby,"
And he's the pastor of a Solid Rock church.
Yes,
Yeah.
pastor of not a mega church, but a pastor. And then we look into the father, and the father at one point was running like a church, some kind of a church outreach where there were complaints that were filed against him for incarceration and torture for the children that were there. And then he also exposed himself at one point, I believe. I'd have to look at the article, so don't shoot the messenger, but I think for exposing himself to an FBI agent, which pretty much all of us wanted to do that at one point, but you know, with our fingers. So
See, Penny, that's why we have to question everything, because it doesn't matter what, and Tom, you know this too. It doesn't matter if they're the head of a mega church or they're head of some state of government or anything.
Or they're in,
just
or
because
they're
of that position.
president of the
doesn't-
United States.
I mean, the people that want to do those things are oftentimes megalomaniacs and definitely narcissists. And you definitely get into that.
Yes, he said that he told his parishioners that he went in 4 times and laid by her body. He couldn't believe she was dead, and he thought he raised her from the dead. He thought he raised her from the dead, and then he called
This
out.
is why we need to question everything and everyone and put, you know, I mean, we just can't be too careful with the people that we put in our lives that we're
It's
part of.
difficult. It's really difficult because, you know, when I grew up, we didn't have been verified. So thank God we got that tool now where we can look and see if somebody has a criminal past. And then also, that's another thing that they want us to have. They want us to have a criminal past. So if people are looking up, they're like, oh, well, this person's a psycho, right? They, you know, they've been arrested or so.
I screwed. I don't even have tickets.
They try to create false narratives, and then they keep
correct
into it.
Then and they can build upon that and build upon that and build upon it. So Micah was put in the crazy house, but apparently her dad said that he had talked her in. Her husband had talked her into getting breast augmentation, and then he told the doctor to make sure she was very heavily anesthetized because she didn't like pain and she didn't want to wake up in the middle of it. Well, as a result of that, some chemical imbalance ensued from that over medication, and then they had. And here's the other thing. So, what did she know about the church parishioners? And I told his name is Michael Francis. I told him that the PD there, that they, to the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong, but underwent a tarnished badge operation in which they found a large portion of that PD culpable for crimes buried, you know, from whatever that there were. So now we also know that the PD works like the FBI. They work in conjunction with these pastors. Now, is it possible
Penny.
that he was being sex trafficked, that they were also aware that the PD or the other parishioners were sex trafficking children as well? What did she
Penny,
know?
when we talk about people that are in these positions, I just want to throw this story in real quick. When I was in Key West, and I met Jimmy Chagra, who was like the head of the drug operation in the United States back in the 70s, right? He got convicted, but he was innocent of crime, and but because they needed to like control it. But here's the thing: when I met Jimmy, and we hitchhiked down to Key West and met Jimmy Chagra, and he was waiting for a big shipment of cocaine that was supposed to be coming in from Colombia, right? He put us up in this hotel room. We were just hitchhiking, and they just gave us a room, and then I learned who these people were, and then they're like, well, you can stay in our brand new house. And then we're like, hey, we'll take you out to dinner. So his guy named Red took us out to dinner, Penny, and we go to the police station. They're showing me this van of marijuana, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm with these drug dealers, and we're looking at all this marijuana at the police station. We're gonna get arrested. We leave and we drive through a golf course, and then they pull off on the road, and a policeman pulls us over. This is the story. The policeman pulls us over, and I'm thinking, oh God, we're in so much trouble. I'm with these big drug dealers. The policeman walks up and he says, hey, Red, the FBI are coming to town. Y'all need to lay low for a while and go to Ohio. And that's when I realized, oh my God, the police are corrupt in this world. And I'm like, 18 years old and 19 years old, and I'm just realizing that corruption is even in the police forces, because all the police down there in Key West were covering for the drug dealers that were bringing all the drugs in from Colombia, and so, you just never know anymore. The whole world is just gone bonkers, is my opinion.
Yes, and now we're finding out how corrupt our governors are. I'm not talking about mayors and governors. I'm talking about the governance, all of the governance, from the president on down to the DOJ, to the military heads, to our congressmen, to our mayors and governors. When I started talking to John again, the reason why I started talking to him was because I met this individual on a dating app, and I had been separated from Sam for quite some time, but I said, well, I can't really date you, but I'll come down and see you. He was the head of an orchestra. I was playing at the Green Mill. When I get in there, I'm like, this is really weird, because there's a lot of people here. It's a Thursday night, and I was filmed going into the place. It looked like Secret Service outside. There was a camera on the sidewalk. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And so I go in and I say, wow, this is really busy for a swing band. Why is it so busy? Is it usually this busy? And this guy says, no, the mayor's here. So, of course, I say, the mayor of what? And they say, the mayor of Chicago. And I'm like, the mayor of Chicago's here. And so I look over and I'm like, well, I want to talk to him, right? And there's the guy, little thingy in his ear looking at me.
I want to say something real quick, Penny. I'm sorry. By the way, JT, not all badges are tarnished.
No.
Not all of them.
No, they're not.
No.
A tarnished badge operation is the operation to find out who the corrupt cops are. That's what it is. Somebody asked me that.
There's good and bad in everything, whether it be churches, schools, or government, or whatever. There's good and bad in everything.
Surprised how many police departments that have the corrupt people in there and what they do to the ones that are not corrupt.
Yes. My husband told me that if he were to report on a crime against his fellow officers, that we, number one, they would just take him off somewhere and shoot him and kill him themselves. But if you did not go along with the story, then they would send you to a shooting without cover. So I wanted to go back.
Yes. Put you somewhere else and let you get run over by a car.
I think the point is that we need to establish is that they have a hold on the good and the bad police.
Yeah.
And like, even if you're a good policeman, you're going to be coerced into not helping the victim if it's a targeted victim. And the FBI
or threatened, huh, Tom? Or threatened, right?
Or you might not have a say so in it at all. You might just be standing there, and your higher up says, well, this is what we're doing, and you have nothing to say about it.
They'll receive a talking to. So a good person in the police department is going to receive a talking to, and they will be different next time you see them. So you can't count on good police helping you. in the end. They will receive a talking to, and when next time you see them, they'll be towing the line they're supposed to tow as you're considered a target. So that's what I do for the victims out there. Targeted people realize that you're not alone. We understand what's going to you. We understand what's going down for you, and it's heartbreaking. And even when you think you can trust a police officer, they'll be spoken to, and it's heartbreaking to target victims. So that's what I'm saying this for. On their benefit.
Sometimes you get them rebels in disguise that just
they won't be there long. They'll be fired.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Yes, they won't be there long, and then they get targeted.
Yeah,
exactly.
They will plant drugs on you or in your house or do something to frame you and take you down. And then they don't even have to use that. They can just say, look, we got this evidence. Anytime we want, we can take you down. So you better do what we want you to do.
At best, you're going to get a nice police officer coming back to you and admitting and saying, I'm so sorry. My hands are tied. They're not going to let me do anything about this. That's the best you're going to get from the police department.
Oh yeah, I mean they sent a SWAT team after me like a hit squad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I caught up, their crimes that they committed against me to have me hospitalized.
It is badges on puppet strings, and that's what it is. So at the very best. And
because they have bosses and higher ups and higher ups and higher ups, right?
The agenda is filtered down. It's controlled from the top. And so therefore, if you look at I guess, was it William was bringing it up, or teacher, somebody? It's like, I'm going to stand with them here and say, when you look at it from a certain angle, there's no police officers you can really trust in the end, and bless their hearts, those that are good in there, because they're not going to be allowed to be good. They're not going to be allowed to, they're going to be silenced at best, silent. Best you get
or they leave because they've had enough and they just can't do it anymore.
Exactly.
They can't be around all the corruption.
You join with the intent. I passed the police exam when I was in a program called Potential when I was in 10th grade. Somebody brought in the actual exam and I got 100% on it.
Holy crap.
Is that bad?
No.
Because I don't know. I was in a space.
Some of those are pretty difficult.
Yeah. I actually had like a thing where I studied for it. So, but I was in a spaces once and I said, I was reading Shakespeare in 3rd grade and everybody got quiet. I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
I think they were stunned. But I want to point out to Norma, thank Norma too for her comment that took courage. It's like, my heart goes out to Norma in the comments. I just glanced over because I know what that's like. I know what it's like. And I'm sorry you went through that. Yeah. You're done.
My kid's grandfather, his mom's dad was a former mob attorney in Kansas City. And, I've often thought that, he had something to do with my targeting too, or just doubled down on it. But, he was Oscar Goodman, who was the mayor of Las Vegas. Before that, he was an attorney in Kansas City, and they were law partners.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, it even happens in the medical field too, of course. What happened in my situation when they put me away in Canada and said, you think you wrote The Matrix? Okay, great. So I'm put away because I have a copyright.
Because you actually did.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, that's it, right? And it's like, so what happened was a child services one of the people up in Canada that was like a counselor or whatever there came in on my behalf and said, why are the security guards getting time? What's going on? Have you seen his website? Have you actually seen the proof? Have you checked Interpol on him? Why are you doing this to him? And you know what happened to her? She was like, contacting me, made sure Aiden was taken care of, was wanting to see my show even, was bringing her friends, and suddenly it was cut cold. She was never supposed to have contact with me again because she was showing kindness and favor and actually made a difference in helping me get me out of there. So they cut her from the agency. They cut her. This is what's happening in police, medical, everywhere. It's like they don't want people who care helping the targets. And I'm out really because of Caroline, this African-American woman in Canada that stepped in and insisted on a meeting and said, why is Tom here? And the Dr. Briskin or whatever it was that was up in Canada, super corrupt guy, just a corrupt guy. He's like going like, when she's saying like, he should not be here. What are you doing to him? What is he? He's like, he's paranoid schizophrenic. He's like, no, he's not. He's not at all. And everything. And he goes, well, he's something. He's like, nope, you shouldn't even be holding him here. And then he just goes like this, get out of here, go. And I said to him, am I crazy? Am I diagnosed with something still? Yes, you're still crazy, but just go. Oh, so I can just go, but you're saying I'm crazy.
He let you go?
He told me to go because Caroline was there, and he had his handler there too. This Nurse Ratchet that didn't want her name disclosed.
Ratchet.
Meeting with everybody.
Ratchet.
Yeah, she was there. Didn't even give her name during introductions. I said she won't give it because she was the agency handler of the doctor. And so what happened was I left, but he wouldn't let it go. He wouldn't let it go. And I recorded the whole meeting. I have it on tape. And that's going to upset them because they're trying to say, oh, he's agitated at the meeting. They do that. It's like, no, I wasn't. I was actually the one that was being courteous and saying, let's introduce each other and let's talk. Let's, figure this out. And yeah. So.
I want to ask you a question, Tommy. Did you say, what was your association with Goodman?
Oh, my kid's grandfather was his law partner in Kansas City, and they represented, organized crime in Kansas City, which is
he was the attorney for Jimmy Chagra's case.
Yeah, we have to have
Penny?
we have to have a whole show on this.
Yeah, I agree.
He's trying to have me killed when we're visiting him in a my kid's grandfather threatened to have me blown up while we were visiting him in a federal penitentiary. I did have the FBI like respond to that.
Oh, nice.
But not anything since then.
They responded to that. I'm just going to read just very quickly. He was a defense attorney. During his career as a defense attorney, Goodman represented defendants accused of being some of the leading organized crime figures in Vegas, such as Myra Lansky, Nikki Scarfo, Herbert Fat Herbie Blitzstein, Phil Leonetti, former Stardust Casino boss Frank Lefty Rosenthal, and Jamel Jimmy Chagra, a 1970 drug trafficker who was acquitted of ordering the murder of federal judge John H. Woods Jr. and his notorious client was Chicago mobster Tony the Ant Spilotro, who is known to have a short and violent temper. In the semi-factual 1995 movie Casino, the character of Nixie Santoro was based on Spilotro and was portrayed by actor Joe Pesci. Goodman had a cameo appearance in the film as himself, where he was depicted defending Ace Rothstein, a character closely based on Lefty Rosenthal, played by Robert De Niro.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Robert
I'm good friends with Catherine Chagra, and Catherine did a big podcast with Oscar Goodman not long ago. Yeah,
she's writing a book, so Susie got in touch with her.
Robert De Niro, who Warner Brothers told me they wanted to have play Neo in my screenplay. When I pitched it, they said Robert De Niro was in town, meaning New York, at that time in '93, doing Analyze This, and so Bonaventura, the exec from Warner Brothers, who says he still Shepard discovered the Matrix story, he said, "How about Robert De Niro for your lead in your film, because he's in town right now." So they were pitching Robert De Niro to be Neo. Is that amazing?
Oh my God, I can't even imagine it in my head.
That was the first pick. And then I suggested, for the architect, let's have Dustin Hoffman. I was doing him a freaking favor. And so what happens later, you see Meet the Fockers, and they have Dustin Hoffman play Jack or something or whatever, and Robert De Niro play a part for him. So they have both guys that were talked about at that pitch session, and they're mocking the screenplay. They're saying that Dustin Hoffman's character has one ball, and that's what Hitler had, one ball, which is the architect. And then he is playing Jack and Diane, right? The Robert De Niro, and Jack and Diane is my corrupt brother and his wife. This with the Spielberg group, and so it's just this whole thing they put in Meet the Fockers with making fun with Dustin Hoffman.
Meet the Fockers,
and then Dustin Hoffman makes fun. Dustin Hoffman makes fun in Kung Fu Panda by mocking the scene where the agent in my screenplay, the agent looks through the eyes, or Neo looks through the eyes of the one agent that sees Smith. They used it in Matrix, so they have in Meet Kung Fu Panda, they have Dustin Hoffman's character looking through the eyes of the one character and seeing the real baddie, and they're going like this, finally just go like, oh, just forget it, mocking the whole idea of looking through the eyes of the agent.
Forget about it.
Oh my God, they just rub it in. So I'm not a fan of Dustin Hoffman, and he's a small little man. I mean, inside. Yeah.
You need to grow a mustache and a goatee. Seriously.
I think you should
Aiden said that. Aiden
just
said
leave it on
that.
all the time. It's okay.
Aiden said, "Dad, grow the mustache and grow the beard." He's like, so funny, but I did this.
Yes.
Because it was all because of the Dr. Lampshade joke.
Yeah.
No,
Dr. Fan.
Which
I've-
grew
I've-
my great relative, Colonel.
See, Tommy,
Colonel
you're
Warren.
rubbing off on him over there. You guys
Yes,
are rubbing off on each other.
I have a
There you
lampshade
go,
face on one side and a frowny face on the other. I call
There you
it's
Yeah.
a character I call Life of the Party.
It's our two Toms.
I told
You know,
you.
my esteemed relative, Colonel Norman Shade, back in the Civil War.
Norman Shade.
Yeah, he was amazing. Norman Shade, Colonel Norman Shade. Yeah, he was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about the flaunting in movies and stuff. I thought I was when I was living in Malibu. I thought had become like the Truman Show. Like I had tried out for like a reality series where they would have just followed me around and like people would have voted depending on like my decisions and stuff, like the general public, anyway. So after that, I was home visiting and I went to a movie, Spotless Mind of the.
Yes.
Right.
I about had a breakdown after that and watching that thing. Like it was awful. And then
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Kid Rock. Like I got like the door and started wearing it with the front flipped up. And I used to have this T-shirt. It's got two thumbs like this. Says Jesus loves this guy.
Yeah, I played pool with him. He's all right. He's crazy as hell, but he's all right.
In his next music video, he had the exact same hat and the shirt with the it said this guy likes to party.
Right.
Same color shirt, same hat, and he was wearing glasses. It looked like I used to wear these big, thick frame like glasses. I would get take sunglasses and have prescription lenses put in them, and it was like a doppelganger. It was weird.
Right.
And I had a manager, a producer that when I was in Malibu that would introduce me as the next Kid Rock and stuff like that. So it's like just weird stuff. I understand what you're talking about, the flaunt stuff like that. And you try to tell somebody about it, they're like, why the fuck would they want to do that to you?
Right. Even though you have the copyright and the screenplay that and the blockbuster, they still, they don't figure that out.
Yeah.
It's like, a movie that
Not
everybody
you, I'm talking about me.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I hear you. But the movie that everybody should see is The Changeling I think it's called The Changeling with Angelina Jolie. If they haven't seen that is Universal Studios, who's one of the big culprits along with Disney and Warner Brothers and the agencies, revealing and putting in plain sight exactly what they do. So that movie with Angelina Jolie shows exactly what they do. And if you don't have people coming in to help you, like this Caroline in my case, you're never getting out. One of the people that was in there said, "You're never going to get out. You're never going to get out." They said that in one of the last attempts my sister tried with a corrupt congressman, FBI congressman. They said, "You're never going to get out. You're never going to get out." So,
I'm telling you, man, the whole wife in a wheelchair needs to go home and cook my dinner will work. I'm just saying.
yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is I was pulled away while I was making dinner for my elderly parents and my son. So it's like, you see 5 guys from the SWAT team with body armor on and cameras and automatic weapons piled at your window like a bunch of goons with a brain, like one brain cell. And they look like idiots. And they're there. And I'm like, my first words out of my mouth were, "Not again." And they go, "You know why we're here?" I'm like, "No." And so they put in the report, "He didn't even know why he was taken." Like, and then you get in these places and they go like this. You're asked, "Why are you here?"
Made fun of his
Like,
goggles.
"Why are you here?" I'm like, I really, it would take me a while to explain this one, but
Right? It's like Susan saying, explain
Yeah.
your story, how you ended in the crazy house. Okay, do you have
You have time.
You have 4 hours minimum?
yeah, seriously.
Because
Another one that kills
I
me-
can't get there from here, and it's like a bunch of like rabbit holes that you're coming up out of. By the way, when you say Universal, I say vodka, I say Seagrams, I say Bronfins, I say Nexium.
Where do we go? What has happened?
I don't know. I just got lost. I
Universal
don't even know.
Studios was owned by the Bronfman family, who also owned Seagrams, and the Bronfins.
Oh, you just tied everything together. You tied
Yeah.
it together. Okay.
So,
I
that,
was wrong
so if
there.
you want, if that was like the fastest one ever, right?
You're
I
like a
did that in like
beautiful
40
nut.
seconds and under.
Yeah, you're like minority.
I was like, damn.
Right.
Damn.
So he was talking about Universal Studios, and you know who I found that out from? The guy in Bastrop, Susie, the homeless guy.
Oh
Is it
yeah,
Jason? Is that his name?
Jason, the homeless guy from Kentucky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jason,
he
the
chose
homeless
to be
guy
homeless.
from Kentucky, said, "Oh, I know something you don't know."
Hmm.
I said,
So
"Okay, yeah,
easy,
spell it." You
man.
know, I said, "Don't call me unless you have some intel." What have I become?
Well,
And-
all right, everybody. Listen, we should have just called this show "Why Didn't We Just Fly Over the Cuckoo's Nest?" Because it's just been
Yeah.
that.
yes, true that.
But it's okay. It's
And
okay.
speaking of, I was going to mention earlier, but speaking of Bastrop, I was good friends with Curtis Davis, who was a sheriff there for 30 years. He was a good friend of mine. And he told me after 30 years, he had to retire because he said the entire sheriff's department was so corrupt, he couldn't even work there anymore. And he said, I never believed that I would ever retire from what I love to do, but that's how bad it has gotten.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
Yeah.
how bad it is all over the United States. We only have about 4 more minutes.
Yeah.
Tommy, Edward,
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna
Yes.
tell
we
you
didn't get a chance to ask you this last night, but how can people help you and where can they find you?
They can, if they
I'm
want
not
to,
saying help you so much.
that would be great. I have lots of needs, and I've been recovering from a brain injury since 2018. That was just from a bunch of things that happened, including the team coming at me with 50 cows mounted on Humvees. On PayPal, not PayPal. I got a PayPal, but I can't remember it. But was it Cash App?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong. The D and the G are capital. This is a hashtag Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong. You can find me on Facebook, Touchdown Tommy Edwards, Instagram, Touchdown Tommy Edwards, on YouTube at Tommy Edwards 7062, and there's other things out there. I'm locked out of my ex still. Account. So,
Are you guys sure you don't want me to get Lydia on that? Are you sure?
What is it again,
Together.
Doctor what?
Dr.
Gonzo
Gonzo
Bing
Bing
Bong.
Bong. The D and
Dr.
the
Gonzo Bing Bong.
and the D and the G are capital.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
I think we're related. Dr. Lampshade. I think that we're related.
Dr. Lampshade, where can people find you?
Presidency together.
Dr. Lampshade, where can people find you, Tom Altos, and how can they help you? How can they help produce your movie? Help you produce your
Yes.
movie?
Wait, I sent you that link. What was it again? The PayPal was at Reclaim Matrix. Is that right?
Yes, that's it.
Good, great. So there it is. I said, I need your help with that one too. Like, then you can help me talk about it.
He also needs help remembering it. Okay, so
Yeah,
everybody write it down, and then you can text it back to us in the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Forget about it. Yeah.
And Susie Q, where can people find you?
Right here.
And okay, fine.
I know. You can find me probably on Facebook under Suzanne Hott, HOTTE, and on the Awake Nation and the Dark Outpost. So there you go.
Yes, and if you want to help her, she has rescue dogs and rescue horses. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Won't turn away dog food. Yeah,
you have
send dog
rescue-
food. Send dog food.
Do you have rescue? Do you have rescue cows?
Well, I have horses that are like
She has
have
naughty cows that run away from home. That's what she
bad cow, bad cow.
There's two.
Yeah,
black
I found
cows
out about
that are
trackers.
kind
I'm gonna
unusual.
invest in some trackers for my cows so I can
I'm
keep track of
telling
them.
you.
Man.
I'm
But I have
telling you
I have a few medical horses that are like they have major things wrong with them that they'll never be anything but yard art. So but they're here forever.
They can help you by contributing to bowarrowhorses@yahoo.com. And I'm Penny Lake Shepherd. You can find me on Awake Nation Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's Central, 9 to 12 noon Eastern. I'm also on the Dark Outpost. You can subscribe to the Dark Outpost for $30 for the entire year at darkoutpost.tv. You'll see Suzanne Hott there in Hot Shots, and you'll see Dr. Lampshade, Tom Outhouse in the Dream Team.
Dr. Lampshade.
Where
holiday.
pretty much
I'm your Huckleberry. Yeah, I'm your Huckleberry.
everything.
Whoa. Okay,
And then
wait.
And
I
a
need a
whole
minute.
bunch of exciting guests.
on
Yeah.
the dark on the beyond the box. Okay, that's like not outside the box, but like way beyond it. And
Yeah.
we're here every Friday and Saturday from 9 p.m. This is a PM show from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, and that is from 10 to 12 midnight Eastern time. And that brings us to the top of the hour. We did it.
Yeah.
Now, I got to say something now. Nobody ever asked me where to find me. You can find me. You can find me in my backyard. Sometimes in the backyard with candles and bubble bath, which I get a lot of calls then. And when I go to Susie's house, my chair gets stuck in all the sand, and I become yard art.
That's true. I watched it happen.
I know, right? Jesus,
I
criminy.
have an application, Brenda. I want to apply to be one of your gnomes in your garden.
Oh, you know what? My gnomes, I have gnomes in my yard. I love my gnomes.
Right. I got really good
I love
qualifications.
them. I named them all, and they're
Good.
all named "Don't move around and mess up my plants, you little bastards." That's all their names.
Excellent. Or I'd like a position in the living room on the table.
You know, right next to my bed, I'll turn you on and turn you off, whatever.
Turn you on and turn you off. Oh my God.
Whoa, that
Oh,
everybody.
Lord.
We have had a good show. Tom, Tommy, Penny, Susie, thank you all. Thank everybody for being here.
Love y'all.
And
And God bless.
we'll
God
be
bless
back
us
next,
all.
yeah, we'll be back next weekend. And hopefully our guest doesn't get locked in the loony bin. I'm not sure.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. We've got who we have Amy coming on, so she's safe.
Amy's coming on Friday. She's good, but I'm going to replace our
Yes.
Saturday guest. So
All right.
just FYI.
I just thought about it, Penny. I've been wearing a lampshade throughout the show, and we have people being put away. I'm really pushing the envelope here. Okay.
I'm sorry. Was it the I can turn you on and turn you off?
They're gonna show up. They're gonna show up at my house and go.
It's gonna be 4 hours.
All right, everybody.
Yeah,
We
if they
have
take me, I'm gonna run and get it. I'm gonna get this.
I know when I said our guest is not 5150. Tom's like, yeah, right. I'm like, no, seriously.
Yeah.
He just leave us.
Go,
And he's
Norma.
running around the show with a lampshade. So I have a request.
What a great topic.
So when we do go and we meet up at Susie and Penny's, Tom, bring the beard, the mustache, and the lampshade.
Yes. I like it. It's working for me. It's working for you.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. All right, everybody. Y'all have a good night. Thank you for being here. And like always, please be kind to one another. Have a good night.
Okay.
God bless.
Goodbye for now from Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs with our extraordinary guests.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Good night, Putin. Good night, Tucker Carlson.
Oh my God, that was
That
hysterical.
was fun.
Oh, somebody's missing.
Was it Tommy here? Did Tommy lose it?
I think
I
he
think
lost.
so. I think he's at somebody else's house. He's at a friend's house.
At his mom's house?
No, he's not at his mom's.
Oh, okay.
That was not his mom's house.
Okay. Well,
I
that was
think he's at a
great.
friend's.
Nothing like being, off the cuff at the last minute and just having a great show.
Right?
Awesome. That was just freaking awesome.
Oh,
It's a cast of thousands.
So Tom, is that
It
like
was Saturday
stick-on
Night
stuff, or did
Live.
you draw that?
what?
Did you draw that on, or is it actual hair stuff?
No, it's just painted on.
Seriously?
Oh.
Wow. I thought it was like actual the thing that you glued on.
No, it's just
It
painted.
looks real.
Wow.
Try
You did
that.
a
Look.
freaking great job. I
No,
did
thanks.
You
not-
wear that?
I realized you didn't have your guest, and so I had like 7 minutes to get ready. So I wanted to surprise you guys since you never guessed. I wanted to kind of.
I know. I was just like, shit. Where is this guy? I told Brenda, I go, you get one chance to roast me. That's it. Done. I'm that's it. I said,
Yep.
I told Susie, I go, what the hell's wrong with him? I said, you need to call him. I texted him the stuff.
Oh,
Walked up into
we're still
crazy house.
recording.
So he
How